And it was to the point where my adjuster, he said, Rosario, he goes, I believe you and you're in the right. But for you to win this, he goes, let me tell you what you're going to need to win this. You're going to have to change the policy book. So you're going to have to challenge that. He goes, but you
Right.
have a case. He goes, but that's what you're going to have to change to win
Mm-hmm.
this. He goes, it's up to you. He goes, but the way that it's written right now, you're going to lose.
Right.
Right? It's just paid. But here's the thing that I did. Again, I think you have to always learn in business. All right. I knew that I was going to lose that case, Mike. I knew that I was going to lose. He told me early, and I kept fighting. And the reason I kept fighting is because there was steps. I wanted to see all the steps and I wanted to go
Okay.
through them so that if I had to do this again, I knew what was going to happen.
You would knew.
So I
Yeah,
knew
that's
that I was
interesting.
going to lose, but I went and I checked out how the system works right until the end, where the guy goes, "You're going to lose. Either you pay, you're going to lose, or here's the consequence." And I said,
Yeah.
"Fine, I'll pay." But I wanted to see the process,
Yeah.
and that's what I paid for.
I,
What I paid out, I saw what the process is. I'm prepared the next time.
Hey there, go-getters. I'm Mike Ivashu, host of Busy Done Better, the podcast designed to help you embrace and enjoy your busy work life. A programmer since the age of 12, my journey has taken me from an employee to business owner and founder of Booked In Online Scheduling. But I'm not here to brag about my success or sell you my 10-step plan. The truth is, on many days, I still struggle to keep it all together. Wearing too many hats, having to leave when I don't feel like a leader, solving problems I know little about, struggling to be present with family when all I can do is think about work. Whether you're running a $10 million company, a small business, or working a demanding job, you're likely familiar with these challenges. On this podcast, we examine the dark side of business life, significance of mental health, dynamics of remote work, and the ever changing meaning of work life balance, and hopefully make your busy and hectic day a little more interesting and enjoyable. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of talking with one of my good friends, Rosario Cesario. He's the owner of the Pure Escape, a massage therapy clinic in Winnipeg. Rosario is one of the most passionate people you'll ever meet. A pioneer in the massage therapy industry, he recognized 20 years ago that people weren't just looking for a massage, they wanted to escape from stress. He's built Winnipeg's biggest massage therapy clinic based on this core principle. When a client walks into my clinic, he says, I want them to feel at home, to put their feet up, relax, and unwind. Rosario talks about the challenges of COVID-19 and how it helped him uncover a hidden market segment and make his business more efficient. He shares his strategies for staying balanced amidst the rigors of running a business and offers a unique perspective on dealing with legal challenges. He talks about the importance of continuous learning and provides valuable advice on building a successful team and working with family, something he's very emotional about. All this plus tips on how to make a killer pasta dish. So join us for an emotional and inspiring blend of business strategies and personal wellness. Hey Rosario, welcome to Busy Done Better podcast.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
I understand you had quite a good year last year. Pretty good. Did you guys have a
We
good year?
finished really, really strong. It was impressive. Business, we're coming off COVID. We were really, really affected business wise. So the end of our year was fantastic. And it was a great thing to see for the first time in years. So yeah, we had a great end of year.
Yeah, and I imagine COVID was in your business, massage therapy. I mean, that must have been probably one of the hardest hit businesses, I imagine.
We rode waves through it. It was you got these highs and then you crashed down real quick. And what happened a couple of times was because we had the everyone's closed, everyone's open, everyone's closed, everyone's open. When they would do the closes, they would say personal services massage therapy is not allowed. But massage therapy, we go through association, so we're professional, and we are included in that healthcare act where we were not, where people could still come see us. The government never made that clear in their statement. So they did
Oh,
it two times before the association's talking to them saying, you guys got to change how you word it because we would be like, okay, it seems like we're recovering, and then all of a sudden the numbers would hit high, and oh, all personal services have to close, and we were grouped into that when we shouldn't have been, and we crash. Clients are
Mm-hmm.
not showing up for appointments. People are calling and canceling. Oh, we heard it in the news. We can't come. And boom, and then you have to start rebuilding that whole thing again. The
Yeah.
confidence for clients to come. No,
Oh God.
we're doing we're taking these measures. We're safe. And
Yeah.
then the numbers would start climbing and they'd say it again. Boom, you fall again. So, we just rode these waves, highs and lows, and it was really difficult. And, the hardest thing for me was just trying to stay balanced and just ride it out and get through because better is ahead. And we got there, we got there, but it wasn't easy.
Was there any sort of thing you kept going back to in your head that, in the midst of it all that, really got you through it?
One of the big things for me is, the businesses we're 22 years in, and then you start looking at different things now. I don't react anymore the way that I used to, where it was quick. It's like at the end of the day, when you have 22 years of data, it comes down to follow the numbers, look at the numbers, see what's happening, know what's happening. So here's what I started seeing, that was really interesting after COVID was one of the numbers that didn't lie, we started changing our clientele. Our main clientele, 70%, 70 to 75% female, professional, has insurance, to bill for massage. One of our main biggest clients, school teachers, like people who are standing on their feet, so
Okay.
I looked at the
Interesting.
professions and the ages we were getting. So I knew exactly who our client was. The ones that were a little older, they were the ones that were the most hesitant to come back. They were taking care of family members, during the COVID time, that maybe they thought doing something like that isn't safe. I have to think of my parents that I'm in their house all the time, things like that. We saw that older ones were the most hesitant. But what changed was we got a new clientele of younger people who were now, through COVID, changed their careers into being more, now they're working in an office in a more professional setting, and they're taking care of themselves. And they started coming in for massage, and it really, really filled the gap from where we were. And the positive that I kept from it was this, Mike, that other crowd is going to come back eventually when they feel safe and they feel confident enough to start coming in for massages again. And that's what happened, this year, was that came back together again. So all of a sudden we have these new clients. That's great because we never had that age category before, that professionalism category before. And our other clients started all coming back again, and it just merged really seamlessly. I have a fantastic staff of massage therapists. We were able to take care of clients and get appointments in and stay busy. For the summer was fantastic for us as well. We just rolled. We did two great seasons of summertime on Corridon. We were super busy, every appointment full. And then we rolled right into the end of the year, which is always our busiest time of the year. It always is.
Yeah.
Seamlessly with a full staff, and we did fantastic.
That's
Everything was great.
yeah, that's phenomenal.
And,
So, oh, sorry.
and we fought, we fought really hard too this year. It was a fight with staff going down sick and having to reschedule appointments. But again,
Wow.
I had a great staff. People stepped up. We asked, can you take one more appointment today? Would you be okay if we did change your schedule a little bit like this for today? And they all were like, yes, we'll do it. And it was everyone a pitch in moment kind of thing, and it really changed Pure Skate. To be honest, it changed the culture of how we work, and it was great to see.
Yeah.
Staff
That
stepping up to help each other. It was fantastic.
that's amazing. That's, a lot of times in life you see that, right? Like where the struggles is the really hard times where you actually discover something new or and for you it sounds like you literally discovered a brand, not a brand new market segment, but kind of realize that there's a new flourishing market for you, which kind of
Yeah.
Probably
And
helped you
then, you
slingshot
know,
into really good
yeah,
revenue
because then
afterwards.
you have to start taking that data, when you start looking at it from the business point, you take that data and now it's like, okay, I have advertising dollars. Where do those go now? Before I was doing radio, I was on CJOB, number one station in the city, but who's listening to it, right? Who's your market? All of a sudden, you see the market change and everything's online.
Mm,
So I switched to focusing on, our website and our social media because that's now who's seeing, right? So I had
yeah,
to make sure that, our Instagram is always being updated properly. And content and time are two things that if you don't have, you have to hire someone to do it
yeah,
and keep your stuff looking fresh. Because
yeah,
when you're doing it, you notice. People notice that you're doing it.
yeah.
One of the proud things again for Pure Escape is we're 2 years in a row we won for the best three in Winnipeg. We're top
Oh
three
wow.
massage therapy locations. We did it 2 years in a row, and it's not something that they you get awarded and then they say, okay, here's how much it is to advertise with us because that's what some of the platforms do.
Right.
This one is you've won this award based on this merit. Here's how we judge you on this 50-point scale. And they show it to you. So you even see it's like, okay, that's where I need to be better. So
Oh wow, yeah.
yes, it's really interesting. And again, I'm proud we won it 2 years in a row as Winnipeg's top three.
So did you get nominated for that, or did you have to
They
like submit an entry or something?
I didn't submit anything. It's one of those things that they notice because they see
Okay.
your Google ranking.
Right.
They see your reviews and
Right.
they plug it in and out pops a
Wow.
metric. And 2 years in a row, we're top three in Winnipeg. So I think it's fantastic.
That's such a great accolade
Yeah.
for so many decades of hard work.
Yes.
So you're a single owner, right? Single owner
Correct.
of the business.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, you mentioned you have a fantastic team.
Yeah.
How how long did that take to build? I guess to get to a point where you can say that consistently.
Mike, yeah, that I'll answer with this. We're still building it. It just it doesn't stop. That is a moving organism of the business that it doesn't end. We're always building it and changing it because you can find a way to make it just that much better, and that's what we're trying to do all the time. So you know we try to work with what we have. Like our staff is fantastic, train them properly, get them to follow. That's key. That's really key is having that. And we had a great front desk through this year again, and it worked out fantastic for
Were
everyone.
there any things that anything specific that you changed or started doing that really helped to get your team kind of really elevated or up to par, or maybe things that you used to do that you changed and you realize, I don't know, just change in tactics and
Yeah,
change.
there was a massive change in the business. Is we changed basically managers uh, the last quarter of the year.
Okay.
We had our front desk manager who she'd been there for 11 and a half years. It was fantastic. Helped me get to a point, where we are today. But it was also time to look at a different way of doing things. And it was so her leaving, you have that, wow, I'm losing this really wicked person who's helped me so much. And then I had the other side of me that said, wow, I got a wicked opportunity to change things. And I respected each side. We had a great party for her when she left, bought her a really nice gift, a thank you, heartfelt, and I really meant it. And then boom, we moved on. And what ended up changing was my sister helps me run the business, and for years she's done it from her home. She does accounts receivable. We
Okay.
submit to insurance companies, and she makes sure we're doing it right, that there's no mistakes, that if we ever get audited, there's no mistakes, right? Like she is so clean on what she does. It's amazing having this person in your business. And I was able to set her up so she didn't have to come in and do it from home. But, she always helped with organizing and running the front desk area because she's very specific on how she gets her reports. Because as long as everything is clean from step one, by the time she gets it at step five, it makes her job so much easier. So she trains the girls at the desk very meticulously on how to accomplish this. When Nancy left, my sister said, I want to give it a shot. I want to try to help you run it from there. I want to come in every day and help you run this business and
Did
change things at the desk at my level.
are you and I'm guessing you and your sister are pretty close otherwise, like outside in
Yes.
private life. Were
Yes.
you fearful of
Nope, because
mixing business and family?
yeah, because the first thing I did was immediately before you enter into that contract, you sit down and say, "We're going to butt heads. You're my sister. I'm sorry. It's very
No,
emotional.
it's all good. Yeah, no, I know you're a family guy.
You say, "You're my sister. I love you, and we're going to fight, but I love you. Period." So
Yeah.
nothing could come between this.
That's the key, it sounds like, to working with family is you have to have that conversation and go,
Right away,
if the shit
immediately.
hits the fan and we don't agree
Families
on a
first.
business, something about the business, we
Doesn't matter.
cannot let it
No.
affect our
Nope.
yeah, yeah.
So that was
That's
done day one, and we moved forward.
and has that
And
happened? Have you guys
oh yes, got
butted heads?
two, 3 times. Where we have to sit down at the before it's goes any further than that day is say, here's how I felt about that. I'm sorry. What's your side? Okay,
Yeah,
we're done. Move on.
right.
It has to just don't let it be that
Yeah,
way with your family, right? Like it's just you
yeah,
can't. And we have to work together and we have to make decisions and things are moving really fast. And it's just not going to happen if I'm mad at her and now I don't want
yeah,
to talk to her. And now, what are you doing? Figure
yeah,
it out. Talk, say you're sorry, gone.
yeah.
Okay, let's work.
It's
You know,
say the say you're sorry part. I've actually learned I'm as well. I get emotional or I get frustrated, I get angry. I'm sort of quick to anger, but I just find saying sorry and apologizing as quickly as possible. Yeah, I don't know how many times I apologize even in a
yeah,
day, like because I just you get to a point where work close with you care about you, whether that be close coworkers or family, you kind of just get to a point like this is me,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I do the best I can to bottle like the bad the negative side, but it's never going to be perfect, right?
No, it's
And
not.
it's
That's it's
yeah,
never going to be perfect.
and so all you
Never.
can do is recognize when you hurt other people's feelings or you affect people negatively,
Yeah.
and just acknowledge that, right? And
You
go,
know,
hey, you know what?
the
Even if you think you're right, still,
yeah,
I that took me so long
right?
to
That
understand.
stubbornness too. The
Like
the
you could
one
the whole
nice
you can
thing,
be right or you can have friends, type of
yeah,
thing.
the one nice thing that it's happened about 2, 3 times, and the one time it came from her, and she's had to recognize it and say, I'm sorry, I've overstepped my boundaries and I apologize. And she recognized it right away, and it was done that day. Again,
Yeah,
something that
and
was,
that's all
and
it
it's,
takes.
yes,
It's
because it
so
was something that
amazing
was
how
actually, the argument was a big art. What she did, she was in the wrong, and she knew she was. And this is your time when you say, is this person big enough to step up and admit it? Because in business, the one thing when you want to be in that position, one of the biggest things you need to show is I can take the hit and move on. I can accept when I'm wrong. And that's really important because as a business owner, when someone does that quickly and says, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I want to talk to you about it, and it's done real fast, like a very valuable thing to have in your
yeah,
business when you can do
yeah,
that. Because when
100%.
you do not talk about it, it just does more harm than good.
They say
You know?
emotions don't belong in business. I don't think that's entirely accurate. I think
I don't either.
emotions are actually critical, and if you learn to hone that energy, it can
Yes.
really propel your business. Yeah, you definitely the sort of the challenging side of that, you have to learn to move on. I remember a quote from a famous person. I'm gonna ask you to guess who you think it might be. So I remember this entrepreneur being interviewed one time. He's very well known at the time. This was probably a couple decades ago at this point. And he was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked him, so what advice do you give to, entrepreneurs or people starting businesses, whatever? And he kind of gave it a thought for a second. He says, you just got to roll with the punches. And that was it. And it was a person who probably could have given 100 way more complicated answers, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's the best advice he could give. Guess who it was?
Roll with the punches.
I will literally give you $100. Swear to God, if you guess this.
Is this like a like business person or is this a
Business person.
celebrity? This is a business person?
A little bit of both.
Mm,
I'll give you three guesses.
Warren Buffett.
Mm-mm.
Is that guy, I mean, respect. Here's this guy who said, I'm leaving nothing to my kids. I drive a 1986 Ford and I live in a 1,200 square foot
Yeah.
house that I've lived all my life.
I
Like,
have a story about
wow.
Warren Buffett too. Okay,
You
so I'm gonna
know,
tell you. I'm gonna tell you who this was. Donald Trump.
I was going to say that. That was my
I
second
kid you
one.
not.
I
Originally,
was going to say
sorry,
Donald Trump.
I should have let you. I thought we
I
were
was going
gonna
to say
go on
Donald
to
Trump.
talk about something else.
Yes. He was
Um.
number two. Swear to
All
swear
right.
to God, he was
All
my
right,
number two.
buddy. I'm gonna
Donald
I'm gonna
Trump.
buy you dinner then.
All right.
I'll take
I'm
that.
holding you to that.
Yeah, it was Donald Trump way before when he was, when he was just doing his business thing and whatever he did. But yeah, I mean, you can't deny the fact that the guy, I mean, yeah, you can have there's many opinions obviously of the guy, but I
Yes,
mean, he
there
was a
is.
business guy.
Yeah.
Can't deny that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyway, it was I for and it was yeah, like I said, it was way before he announced his candidacy for presidency. All the
Yeah.
crazy chaos started. So, but Warren Buffett. So here's something I remember, a story I remember about him, and it was from Bill Gates. And Bill Gates talked. They're like best friends, right?
Yeah.
And Bill Gates, I think it was in a documentary or something, was talking about Warren Buffett. And the one thing that stuck with me that he mentioned, he says, and the thing that really blew him away when he first met him, one of the first encounters, first tour, is he showed me he says, so Bill Gates, I've heard, has been known to be, he was at points when he's so busy, he literally had like a secretary walking around with him all the time that would just take random notes of thoughts he had. He'd be like, "Oh, I gotta remember to wash my pants tomorrow. Can you write that down?" And he had somebody
Jeez.
beside him all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's how busy he was. And his calendar was full all the time and all that stuff. So he meets Warren Buffett and he goes, I couldn't believe it. He changed my entire perspective on how I run my business and because I looked at his day timer and it was empty.
Right?
And I was like, no, where's the
Uh,
real one? He says, no, I don't do
uh,
meetings. I don't do podcasts. I don't do webinars. I do one shareholder meeting a year. And other than that, I wake up and I just do my work, analyze companies, and that's it.
amazing. That's amazing.
And he
Yes.
just says no to like all the
Yeah.
bullshit. And he, like Bill Gates, like that changed my life. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that a person at his level, his position, doesn't like live this chaotic business life that seemingly everybody else does.
Yeah.
So he realized that it doesn't have to be that way, right? Type of
Yeah. One thing for me that I've
thing.
strived for, and I know I've told you this, is the one thing I'm trying to buy is time. Like that's the biggest asset of your life. And if you can get the business to a certain place where you don't have to be there as much, I think that's fantastic. And then that's what I'm trying to do for me.
Yeah.
Spend time at home with my son and live life. Like that's It's what you strive for,
Yeah.
when you do a business, and it's a lot of work. And you look back and you get asked, would you do it again? Every time is yes. you know,
Yeah.
every time. And there's the ups and the downs of it have been tremendous. And you're still like, no, I loved that challenge. I loved everything about it. And it doesn't stop, right? Like you show the next
Yeah.
day and it's something different. And there's you kind of like it. It's
Yeah.
hard to not have that.
Yeah.
But slowing it down, going backwards now is really what I'm trying to is my goals, is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buying time. That's a common theme from some of the other podcasts that I've done. There was one I did with Joel Lee. He's a tattoo artist, country music singer. The guy does so many different things. And he literally said, my currency is time.
Yeah.
I don't, of course I charge, an hourly rate to do tattoos and all of that, but that's, I don't look at valuing my life based on how much money I'm making or I have in the bank or whatever. I value it in terms of how much time did I buy myself to do the things that I enjoy
Yeah.
today or this week, right? That's for him, how he defines. And I just thought I thought it was super interesting how he referenced it as a currency, so
Well,
he said, I work hard but the minute I have enough, he said for him, it took a while to sort of, cause he also has a family. He has two kids. He's got grandkids. He said the minute I kind of made enough, I would just like stop because I've bought enough time now to do something,
yeah.
to play music or to
Yeah.
sing or to
Yeah.
spend time with it. And then he would like, oh, okay, I got to make money again, So I think he's over time, he made that a lot more consistent, and that sort of thing. But it just, yeah, the perspective of using time as currency, I thought was super cool.
The one thing that I stay conscious about time as well is your expectation on the employees. Like one thing that I try to do with all of them is, when we hire someone new, I make it up really clear. It's like, here's approximately what we need you to be here for, but what also works in your life. Like I want to make it fair so that you have a schedule that works with your life, because you have to go home to something. Like I take their time into consideration a lot. I always say this when I'm talking first time with someone. I say I look at a day. It's broke up into three segments, and it's 8 hours when you sleep, 8 hours when you're awake, and 8 hours when you're at work. Technically, when you're that regular,
Right.
right, the regular 9 to 5 days. Okay, I'm just going to break it technically. Some people don't do that, so it's different. But let's just look at it as a regular 9 to 5. I
Right.
said, there's these three segments, and eight of them happen to be here. And I don't want you here for any more than you have to be here either, because you're happier when you're doing those other eights on the other side. So let's get you in. Let's make this a great place for you to be when you're here. And then you get to go to that next part. And I try to take their time. There's things that the business needs. It's like, I need you to be here for this minimum. How else can we fill it in based on what you need in time as well? So I'm really
Yeah.
conscious about that with staff.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly telling them, take some days off, take your holidays, like
Yeah.
make sure you're taking your holidays.
Do you
Don't not
find
take
you
your holidays.
do you find you have to push some people to take more time off?
Some, yes.
Yeah.
Like when I see in the schedule the way it looks, I get concerned, and I'm like, too much. Like we have our times, like we just finished our busiest time, and everyone put that time in, and it showed in their paychecks. Like I was writing checks I'd never written before as a group. Like I was blown away, and it was fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
to see what you're providing for, what your business has provided, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But that was our time to do it. And now it's like, okay, we're going to slow down a little, you guys. Take some time for your bodies, take some time to relax, like take some time, come in, get a massage from one of your staff here who has an opening, because it's a little slow right now. Like
Yeah.
take care of yourself right now,
Yeah.
because
Makes sense.
we just went through this busy season.
Yeah,
Important.
I think that's so important. I think they love their work, and I have team members that love their work, and probably if I didn't push them a little, they would, maybe take 1 week vacation, and they would only do it when they're super burnt out.
Yeah.
And that's, you don't want to wait till that moment to take
No. Yes.
vacation. Like, because that,
Yeah.
that's just and I keep telling them, like, look, I want you around for a long time. I don't want you to burn out. So
Yeah. You don't want them burned out. It does nothing for you.
yeah, regular
You know,
breaks.
regular breaks. And okay, like I said, season we went hard. Now a little break. Let's get
Yeah.
everyone healthy, because you battle, right? It was a battle of constant, I can't come in, I'm sick, I can't fever. And you're like, yep, you got to stay home because we have that, the big fear in the season is don't come into work and get everyone else sick
Right.
because now we're all screwed, like wow.
Yeah.
And we fought it every week with someone going down, but we were able to get through it. But it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. They in take me back to the beginning when you first started the business. I remember you were further down on
Yeah,
Corden, I
on
think it
Corridon. Yeah, I
was.
was in the 1700 block at
Yeah.
Corridon. Yeah,
And so even before that, I mean, you graduated from massage therapy school. You worked at a restaurant, I believe, a
yeah.
hospitality industry, or I believe, what am I saying? I work with you. Uh, and and then you went to massage therapy. So why didn't you follow the path of everyone else? I went to massage therapy school and I'm just going to get a job as a massage therapist. What was it why did you start a business doing massage therapy?
So I didn't start right away. So here's what I did. So I graduated from massage college, and I knew I was going to start a business. That I went to school knowing that, and there was a whole reason and a story for that in itself. But um, I wanted to do a business, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right. Like I had really thought about it. I was also at a part of my life where I'd been working in restaurants and going back to school, and you're like, man, if I don't get that career that I want, and I really love massage, am I just going to be a server for the rest of my life? So there
What
was
was it
that
about massage
motivation.
that you really love?
What I loved about it was this natural hands-on healing. Okay. I remember the first time I was as a young person that I was like, the medical industry sucks. I went to my doctor. I had wicked back pain, like just I was in pain. I couldn't move. I was in and out in 15 minutes, and the only thing I had in my hand was a prescription for painkillers. And I'm like, that's the best our medical system can
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Like, seriously?
Don't get me
That's our
started.
medical system.
Yeah.
That's what I got in
Yeah.
15 minutes. Here's a prescription. This will dull the pain. I'm like, and
They're
I left
they're
going,
glorified
there's
drug dealers.
yes, there's got to be something better. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how I left. And then I started looking at things. I'm like, man, I was going to go back to university to do physio. And the whole how massage came about, I went to a birthday party of a friend, Teresa, and her brother-in-law was in school, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, oh, I think I'm going to go back to university, get my grade point average up, and look at physio. He goes, I'm doing massage therapy. He goes, it's almost the same curriculum as the way the physio is. He goes, it's a 2-year program, full time. He goes, Rosario, it's the next up and coming thing. You should in healthcare, you should check it out. So I said, okay,
And this was
interesting.
what year was this? Would have
Oh,
been
this
late
was not,
90s,
this would have been mid 90s,
mid 90s. Okay.
mid
Right.
96, 97, somewhere in there. So
Yeah. So
massage is
so
brand
like,
new,
right, yeah,
brand new.
alternative sort of
Yes,
medicine was
almost
was
alternative.
really
Yes.
starting. Yeah. Okay.
So I go home after this party, and that's on my head. And it was Sunday afternoon. I woke up, and us old people will know this. I pulled out the yellow pages. Remember those?
Yeah.
So I pulled up the yellow pages, and because I had also started looking at what would it cost and be to go into chiropractor, and I wanted to see that realm as well. So I pull out the yellow pages. I first go to physio because that was my first thing I really liked, and it was page after page of physiotherapists in the city.
Right.
So I did the same thing for chiropractor. And I mean, there's a chiropractor in every second block, right? It's like, wow, a lot of chiropractors' offices. And then I went to massage. Well, I couldn't find it.
Hmm.
I couldn't find massage therapy because it was uh, three-quarters of one column. I think there was four businesses in it. So I looked at it and I said, okay, you like physio because that manual therapy. That's what I like. Maybe working with athletes, right? Like that. How awesome would that be? So then I said, well, if massage, and then I went to go investigate the schools and how they were teaching the course and everything, was kind of doing the same thing, manual therapy, hands-on. I could do this in 2 years. And when I get out, I want to start a business. And now I'm looking at the yellow pages and saying, Rosario, what do you want to compete with? 12 pages of
Right.
physiotherapists and
Right.
chiropractors, or
So
three-quarters of one column
yeah.
for
So
massage.
it's funny.
And
It sounds like even though you were looking for kind of a career, you really were looking at it as where do I want to start a business? Like
yes,
at the same time. So it wasn't like I
yes,
just want to be a massage therapist and I just want to massage. And then
no,
you did that for a while and then you realize, I think I want to do
no.
this on my own. You
Day
you
one,
knew you knew you wanted to. Then that's interesting because
I
to
play Mike. I play the long game.
yeah. I just did a podcast with Adam Pimentel, who's a hairstylist, and he was saying the same thing. He owned Vesuvio restaurant for a while, and then went to start a hair salon. And he said the same thing. He said every job I had, I always knew I would be running a business. Like I always knew it, which I found super
Yes,
interesting
one hundred
because I
percent.
didn't. I didn't.
Mike, I'll tell you how far back it went for me. Like when I served, and I'm going to back it up even from there. When I served, I had a six-table business section that night. That's those six tables were Rosario's diner inside of the round table,
Right.
and they were
Yeah.
going to get
It's your own
taken
little
care of
business.
like
Yeah.
Rosario's business.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why I was the closing waiter every night. There's a reason why Ray gave me the 30 table, one bill sections because one, he knew I could handle it because I wanted to make the money. And I was going to do everything I could that night to make the restaurant money. That's what my goal was every single night.
I think my problem was I just wanted to start drinking. I gotta let Mike
you
off. He
know,
just needs to go to the bar. Yeah, I need him to spend his money that he made and put it back in the
Mike,
business.
when I was a kid, you're always thinking of how do you make money. I would be the kid that would go around to the neighbors and say, "Hey, do you have any Coke bottles you don't want?" And I'd collect them
Yeah,
because Safeway would
yeah.
give you a quarter for them, the
See,
big
that's
ones.
amazing. When you look
You
at
know?
entrepreneurs who you rewind the tape all the way back to when they were children, and it's that resourcefulness that always
Yeah,
existed.
you're thinking all
I
the
think that
time.
has to be a genetic, almost genetic, where you want something and you just figure out how to get it or
How
how
to
to
do
make,
it.
or you're
Yes.
always like, how can I make money at this? Like collecting
Yeah.
rocks, can I make some money at this? Right? Like,
Yeah. So, okay, let me get back to where we originally were.
right.
So I graduate and now I know I want to start the business. I first thing I did was I did not do one massage and I served for 2 months and I paid off my student loans. So 2 months outside of massage college, I am now debt free. Okay. That was goal number one that I had to accomplish. Then I said, you want to start a business, but you don't know nothing about it. So you're going to go work at other businesses until you figure it out. So I went and I worked at a chiropractor's office first to see how they did things. Then I went to go work at a spa to see how they did things.
But all
And then
along, you knew this was just a learning
I
path.
was planning my
I'm
business.
preparing for my business. Right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I was planning my business. And then I went to go work at a holistic center was the last one. And I saw how they did it. And I said, I like how the chiropractor did this. I like how the holistic center did this. And I like how the spa felt. And I said, that's my business.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 years. Then I was massaging. I'd go to people's houses. I'd pack up my table. Like I literally started my
Right.
business out of my trunk of my car. My friends, it's like, come over to my place, and I'd
Wow.
cram a
Yeah.
little tiny table wherever I
Yeah.
could and give them massages. Like it was,
Yeah.
you did whatever you
Huh.
had to do, right? But I spent 2 years looking at other places and then saying, I like A, B, C, D. And now I'm going to put mine together with a little bit of elements of those. And that's what I did. And I was one of the first, but when I said there was four yellow page ads, when I when I went into business 4 years later, there was still only six. That was the other thing. Back
Yeah.
then, there was nowhere to work. No one was hiring massage therapists. We were
Right.
nobodies. No one knew
Right.
anything about us. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, boom, massage therapy came out and it became a big thing. And now everyone's like, oh, we want to hire a massage therapist. And it's, this is an industry where massage therapists are wanted. But, again, I always think about that and I'm like, I want to put them in the proper situation because I want their careers to last long. It's a
Yeah.
really great job, to do. You get a long career out of it and they make really good money.
Yeah.
It's great. And you're taking care of clients, which is beyond priceless.
Yeah.
That's why we went into it.
I was
I
gonna
got a
say,
prescription from a doctor. I hated that. And I'm like, there's got to be something better. And maybe I need
right.
to be the change.
Right.
Not to
And
say
that's
that, I changed anything, but it's just like, can I help someone who has this back pain who doesn't need to go get a prescription? I think I can,
yeah.
and
So
I took that challenge with clients
so that's interesting. I wanted to make a change. I I think that's common as well with, business owners, because
for sure.
you want to get out there, and maybe very few invent something brand new, but you, I think a lot want to make a change in terms of, I want to do this better, right?
Yes.
Right? Like
And I'll touch on
I
that.
see the value in this, and I don't think the people that are doing it right now are doing it as well as it could to
Correct.
really provide the value, especially in service industry, right? To
Yeah.
really serve to provide the
You
value
know,
to people.
the one thing that I was really lucky at as a business person, now I was motivated to just do well from personal, just how I am, um, uh, because business, it's really tough doing the business and you got to go all in. You got to go all in for that. And,
Yeah.
when you look back at where you came from to get there, there was, it took a lot. And when I opened my place, you know, it wasn't that I thought I'm going to do it better. It was just I'm going to do it different. That was my thing
Right.
because the 4 or 5 other places that were open as massage therapy only places, all looked exactly the same. They had white walls. I went. I wanted to see,
Hmm.
if you're going to open a business, you're going to go see what your competition's doing.
Yeah.
So I went and I got a massage, white walls, muscle posters, bright lights, very like you're in a clinic. Okay.
Right.
And that's the way that was the look. A lot of times you weren't even in a private room. You were in an area that just had a curtain, and you're getting a massage. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And I thought that was fantastic. But my whole thought when I wanted to do mine, the big thing was, how does it feel when you come in? What
Yeah.
does the place feel like?
Yeah.
Because I just love the way that the spa's set up, the way the waiting area felt, the way that the
The
room felt,
music,
the music, the
yeah.
lighting, the
Hmm.
the heat, the cool, like the
Yeah.
smells, right? Like it's so
That's so true,
awesome.
because
It's so awesome,
that's
and
one of
and their therapy now for me has already started. Then they're going to come into the room and then we're going to go through what they need and we're going to do that massage for it as a treatment. And I just thought those two elements went so well together
yeah.
as opposed to bright lights, no music, hearing everything. This body, for me, it was body mind, right? Like just our lives are so busy. You get this 1 hour to go into some place and shut off for 1 hour. No
Yeah.
phones ringing, no messages, no one talking to you, just a really nice warm room, a warm table, table warmer cranked up, and a nice looking place for you to start your therapy. Is For me, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, this is what I want. And that's what I did. And I was
Yeah.
the first one to do it back then, make it look that way.
Yeah. Taking care of people, right?
Yes.
It's
That whole mentality of you're coming, I always looked at it like you're coming into my home. Let me take care of you, but here it is.
yeah.
Like European.
And
Come,
that's
I have
yeah, I was
food.
gonna say that's funny. I think in many, especially single owner businesses, you know, probably your business is kind of an expression. It's largely an expression of who you are, right?
100%.
It's
Absolutely.
your painting.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, because I know you personally, and that aspect about you is definitely holds true in your private life. The whole welcome to my home, you know, like
Yeah.
warm
Yeah.
hospitality. I mean, your whole family's like that. So.
That's, I looked at it that way. Like it's your business it represents you 100%.
Yeah,
Like the one thing that, I always do as the owner is I want to make sure the place looks clean. Okay. Like I'm going through the hallways and because we have the changing sheets all the time. The little flannelette will come off and go on the floor. So you can see these little white specks. I'm going around picking them up off the carpet because it just doesn't look clean. I go check the bathrooms like every turnover, every
yeah,
time clients have gone in and out, it's like bathroom check.
yeah,
Make sure everything is wiped down and looks good. The carpets in the front have to look nice. You start taking pride in your space,
yeah.
and I
Wow.
really do. I take pride in like this is my space. I want it to look good, and
And
I
that's
do these things.
where all the hard work is. It's in all those details, right? It's getting
Yeah,
it to that. I also kind of have a problem with the negative sort of views of perfectionism. I hear a lot of that. Oh, perfection is the or whatever, the obstacle to progress or whatever. And yeah,
yeah,
I get that to some degree, but I'm like, yeah, you look at there's a lot of small and massive uh, entrepreneurs who built small and massive businesses who were super well known to be perfectionists, almost OC, like obsessive compulsive. And I don't know. I think that gets
Mike.
too much of a negative spin. I think that
Yeah,
when you have
here,
that, you need to hone that
yeah,
but just, to a degree where you also have to manage staff and employees and recognize
yeah,
that not
absolutely.
everyone is going to have that level, but that's your gift, right? And not
Yes,
expecting
yeah,
all your employees to share
yeah.
that exact. So
You
you
know
create
the
processes, right, and all that. But
the one saying I wrote down that I look at is I expect perfection, but I'll settle for excellence. You know,
oh, that's a
so I expect perfection, but I'll settle for excellence.
that's such a good line.
Perfection is what's perfection? Come on, as a
Yeah.
business owner, when
Perfection
you
can
think
never be
it
achieved,
can never be achieved,
but
but
you're
I
always
expect it.
striving for it.
I
Yeah.
will strive for perfection, but I'll settle
Right.
for excellence.
Right. Right.
Like strive for it. You're never going to get it because that
Shoot
bar is
shoot
always changing. When
shoot
it's
for this.
not financial, then it's this, right? Like
Right.
you have these things, and you never.
Shoot
You're
for the
always changing.
stars, you'll hit the moon, right? Type of
You'll
thing.
hit the moon. What is wrong with that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with that? I think it's difficult, but the challenge, that's why we do it.
Yeah.
I think that's
Um
why we do it.
what was in let's say you've been now running the business since you started running your business. How long has it been the business? Because
We
first it
are
was called the
in,
Urban Escape, right? And then you
yes,
changed the name.
I changed it after a year because of people were mistaking us with another place
Okay.
that had way more money than me to fight a name suit.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Makes sense.
I said, I'll never win. I'll
Yeah.
never win. It's going to cost me a lot. Not that I'll never win. It's going to cost me more. I
Yeah.
had just started and I said, change the name. And it was on
Yeah.
me to do it.
This
And I changed it and
smart
went from
move.
there.
Something
Yeah.
my lawyer who I've had for many, many years, he gave me a quote one time, a long time ago, which really stuck with me when it comes to anything legal related. He goes, and this is why I like him, one of the very few lawyers that I like. Um, he said, yeah, normally I tell my clients take the first loss because
Yeah.
he goes, fighting it as much as it's going to benefit me is going to cost you way more.
Way more. I have had
Take the
that
first loss.
conversation
Take the first
multiple
loss, move on.
times. Yes, I've had that conversation multiple times with lawyers where they're just like, yeah, we understand you, Rosario, and you're probably in the right. Just pay it because it's going to cost you more to pay me to
Yeah,
fight this.
yeah,
And you make those business decisions. You have to make
Yep.
those decisions in business, and they're tough, you know.
Yeah.
And but that's also, I'll tell you this: how do you learn, Mike? You know, you learn, you take your bumps, man. You got to
Yeah.
take your bumps to learn. It's
And
never this. When business is this, then there's something wrong with the industry. Like
yeah.
it's not possible. There's a this,
Yeah.
and this is when you get challenged. That's when you know who you are.
So rolling with the punches is something we discussed. I think something that's closely related is, and emotions too. Emotions can be very powerful and help you build your business as long as you keep it. But I think ego is a big, you have to keep that in check,
Yeah,
right? Because that's a great example of how, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna fight this, like the Steve
yeah,
Jobs line. I'm gonna go to thermonuclear war. It's like, well,
yeah.
that's great when you have a war chest of,
Sure.
$1 trillion.
Yeah.
You can go to thermonuclear war, but when you're a small business,
You don't have that
take
choice.
take the hit, move
Yeah.
on.
You take
Like,
the
and you
hit,
gotta,
move on, and
yeah,
learn.
you gotta get your
Two,
ego out of the way
yeah,
because yeah.
two of my biggest hits were one was with someone a wrongful dismissal, and it was to the point where the guy, my adjuster, he said, Rosario, he goes, I believe you, and you're in the right. He goes, you're in the right, but for you to win this, he goes, let me tell you what you're going to need to win this. You're going to have to change the policy book. So you're going to have to challenge that. He goes, but you
Right.
have a case. You have a case. He goes, but that's what you're going to have to change to win
Hmm.
this. He goes, it's up to you. He goes, but the way that it's written right now, you're going to lose.
Right. And is that where you want to invest your time, right?
Your time, exactly. Where
Whereas
now, because now you're,
all that and your
yes,
emotions and all
yeah.
that, right?
Is it
Meanwhile,
worth what you're
yeah.
going to pour into it?
And it's going to cost your
No,
business, like not just the amount
absolutely.
of money you pay for the lawyer, but it's going to cost your business because you're not going to be able to
Yes,
focus on the things you need to focus on. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
right. It's just paid. But here's the thing that I did. Again, I think you have to always learn in business. All right. I knew that I was going to lose that case, Mike. I knew that I was going to lose. He told me early, and I kept fighting. And the reason I kept fighting is because there was steps. So first was to file this, then go sit in front of these people and do
Mm-hmm.
this. I wanted to see all the steps and I wanted to go
Okay.
through them so that if I had to do this again, I knew what was going to happen.
You would knew.
So I
Yeah,
knew
that's
that I was going
interesting.
to lose, but I went and I checked out how the system works right until the end, where the guy goes, "You're going to lose. Either you pay, you're going to lose, or here's the consequence." And I said,
Yeah.
"Fine, I'll pay." And I just waited right till the end until it became that. But I wanted to see the process,
Yeah.
and that's what I paid for.
That's
So
I
what I paid out, I saw what the process is. I'm prepared the next time.
that's
It cost
and
me
that
a lot, but I'm prepared.
yeah, and you know
You
what?
know?
I've kind of thought I've always thought that running a business is the most expensive education you can get.
Yes.
It's a very the amount of money that I flushed, no, I wouldn't say flushed down the toilet, that's a crude way to put
But,
it, but the
but,
amount of money that you invest in this and that and just
yeah,
doesn't pan out. I mean,
doesn't pan out.
I can't like wow,
Yes.
I don't even want to put that on paper.
Yeah.
I'd cry, I think. But that's
I
part of it,
invested,
right? That's all part. It's the
yes,
education and
and
and learning
learning and you learn, like
and learning
you
about
you
yourself
become,
too. Like you
yeah, you
learn
become a
so
better
much about
person and a
yourself.
better business person. But
Yeah.
you learn.
Yeah.
It's the challenge. And again, going back to, I think it's why business people do it is it's a constant challenge. We're
Okay.
putting ourselves in front of something that is constantly moving and will chew you up if you're not
Yeah.
paying attention. So
Okay.
pay attention.
I,
But we like it.
I throw something at you. I had a debate with Adam on a previous podcast. He asserted that entrepreneurs, nobody gets into business wanting to be rich. And
Bullshit.
I debated him on that. Well, no,
Yeah.
we agreed in the end. But
Yes.
so do you agree that I think before when you first start, you don't know what you don't know, right? You
You
have
don't
no
know what
clue
you
what you're
don't.
getting yourself
Yeah.
into.
Yeah. Yes.
And so why do you do it? That first is because you want to be rich. because you want to make
At
lots of
first,
money. You don't
absolutely.
want a
Yes.
ceiling of on
Yeah.
your money, on your income,
Yeah.
right? You want to be rich. You're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like
Yeah.
for you it was maybe I'm gonna have 10 locations one day and right.
And
That's
you
what
know,
drives you in the beginning
at the
to
beginning.
start and whatever.
Yeah.
But then
And then that
if
goes away.
and then, well, but then you hit inevitably you hit this point where holy shit, this is a lot of work. Is this really worth it? Because let's face it, statistically, many entrepreneurs would have made more money if they spent the same amount of hours just doing a
Yeah,
job.
sure.
Now the argument
Absolutely. I
there,
see that.
the counter argument there is a job that you don't enjoy as much, you're not going to work as many hours.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a counter argument though there, but still, right?
Mike, can
But
I
you
butt
get to
in?
that what you get to that point, and that I think that's when you truly become an entrepreneur, is when you decide, am I going to go right or am I going to go left? And
Yeah.
I think there's absolutely no wrong answer. I think
Yes.
if you have an itch, give it a try. I think it's super cool to try. My wife ran her own consultancy for a while. And after a couple, 2, 3 years, she's like, I don't like being on my own. I don't like doing the accounting. I don't like doing any of that. I don't enjoy that. And she went back to working for the city. She's got a great job. She loves it. She gets to just do what she wants, but I can't speak for her, but I think she's learned a lot and she got to scratch that itch and now she
Yeah.
knows what it entails. And I think in a lot of cases, people go back to try entrepreneurship, try running a business, try working on self-employed, whatever. Then they go back to having a job. But I would expect, I don't know, I haven't done maybe I'll end up in a job one day, but I uh
Hey, every business is 3 months from
I think
closing
it's
down. That's my
unlikely,
line.
but you never know. Yeah, exactly.
Every business is 3 months from closing
Yeah.
down. Let's be real.
Um, but I think when you go back, I think it makes you really appreciate having a job after, because it's
Yeah.
like, wow, I never realized how many things got taken care of for me. So,
Yes.
right, like it
Yeah.
makes you appreciate that. Whereas before, you were kind of, maybe you're kind of like, why does it work like this person? This is dumb. This is,
Yeah.
I can do this on my own. And they're like, oh shit.
Yeah. You know,
So,
one of the
but
things as
but when you decide to go the other way and go, I think that it's hard. It's, oh my God, this is a lot of work. I think if you're truly entrepreneur, that's gonna drive you. You're gonna be
yeah,
like, oh, it's on now. This
yes.
is awesome. And my theory is there's a big part of like I think most, if not all, there's a masochistic aspect to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Like
for
you
sure.
love the pain.
You
It's
love the pain.
so much pain and
Yes.
you
But
cry yourself to
Mike,
sleep at
it's
times
it's it's
and you get up
my
again to do
pain.
it
You
again.
understand? It's my
Yeah, it's a
pain.
control.
It's
It's
not
control.
anyone else's.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, when you're working for someone else, you unplug, right?
yeah.
We're here, it's like you really are putting everything into it. But there's also, again, now here speaking from 22 years, there's that point where you get to slow down a little, and that's kind of cool too, because you've kind of gotten there. So you take the little wins that are in the hole
Yeah. Yeah.
as you're going. You got to take those little ones as well. But man, yeah, we're crazy. We're crazy.
Yeah.
What you do. We're
I know my
crazy.
wife's when they're in the sort of the dark days, weeks, months, years for me. I know there's been times where my wife's kind of looked at me like, I don't know why you just don't go get a job. Like just doesn't
Right?
seem worth it. And I'm just like, yeah, but I don't want to
But
get a job.
yes,
I don't want to answer to a stupid boss or do stupid shit that I don't,
yeah,
believe in, right? So
yeah,
that it's the as hard as this is now, the alternatives just don't seem better for me is what got me
yeah,
through
yeah.
the really tough times. Like you just kind of realize like I gotta buckle down, figure this out. I gotta figure this out. And a lot of times it's you have to change a little bit about yourself that you realize, right? Like it's a lot of times it's the obstacles of you and
Yes,
the way you do things or the way you approach things or the way you communicate with people or whatever. And
that's the hardest, by far the hardest thing. And you got to look at yourself in the mirror and go, fuck, I gotta change this. And it's going to be horrifically
Yeah,
hard. But it's,
hard.
if I don't, you, I know like this isn't going to lead to a good place. So,
But I was lucky enough that I got to experience having a second business in my business, and then take it apart, make a conscious decision of saying I'm not going to do that anymore. So when I started Pure Escape, we were just doing massage only. And then clients kept saying, "Hey, why don't you add these services? Why don't you do this? I have to come here for a massage, and then I got to go here to get, you know, uh, legs waxed. That would be so convenient if you had that here." And I'm like, and you hear it enough times, you got to listen, right? So for 10 years, I did a major renovation and we did aesthetics. So we did the Purescape as a massage and aesthetic place. But I never really liked it.
mm,
I didn't like it. And I did it for 10 years, and COVID came and wiped that entire business away because they were never able to reopen for months. By the time it was even able to reopen, I had to make these decisions. I already knew in my heart I was getting rid of it, but here's what made it easier. All my products had expired, and it was going to cost $5,000 to $10,000 to do a first reorder. I had to put up all the plexiglass and dividers for everyone to keep them in their
right.
little bubble while they were there. So that was going to cost me another $5,000 to $10,000 to make these spaces between pedicure chairs and manicure stations and rearrange everything, and then all the stuff you have to buy for your employees to be safe. Like I'm looking at all the expenses and I'm like, not a chance. I never liked it anyways. What a great time to get rid of it. And I freaking dumped it. The for the We had a back area that was like the full manicure pedicure area. I put up more massage rooms,
Yeah.
and be positive on the positive side, where the aesthetics just it wasn't working out. I didn't enjoy it in the business. So and I was able to make that decision to get rid of it. And it's been fantastic ever since, going back to just being a massage clinic, because that is what we did best. So focus on that. Don't do best in one thing but half-ass at the other. Then you're just a
Mm,
half-ass business. You're the
yeah.
sum of the lesser part,
Yeah.
always, you
Yeah.
know? So no, it was time
That's
to get
great.
rid of it, dumped it, and haven't looked back.
That's great advice. And that's hard, right? Because
It was
you
hard.
you
I'm
have
making it sound simple, but it was a very
yeah.
difficult decision. You are correct.
Well, because you have customers, I mean, we have
Yes.
that as well. We have an endless list of feature requests and all of that. And, some of them we think are good and we're trying, but yeah, I think any business, customers like always, they always want, ask you for more but yeah, I think knowing it's tough. It's an art, right? Knowing there, it's a mix of you want to make your customers happy, but at the same time you want to run a peaceful, successful business. Um, and I think the aspect that maybe isn't as big at the beginning, but becomes big, I think at least for me, is you have to enjoy it as the owner.
Yeah. Yes.
And at first,
Yeah.
it's more about the money, right? It's like, you're just grinding, you got that youthful energy, you're just
Yeah.
like anything to make more money. But then over time, even if things are making money, but you're just like, you can't, if you get to a point where you just don't want to go to work anymore, that's bad because
Yeah.
if the owner doesn't like his business, the business is going down.
Yeah.
Event, it's just
Absolutely.
inevitable because that's going to bleed into the staff and everything, right? So like you got to be proud and enjoy your business and enjoy going,
Yeah.
waking up and doing it and going every day. And if
The
that's not
challenge.
happening,
Yeah.
then you gotta, yeah, even though maybe it'll financially, you know at first seem like it's not financially a great decision, but I think that's where you have to have faith and know, you know what, if I make this decision to keep my joy of the business, I can't connect all the dots going forward, but I just have faith that that's going to pan out better, even financially in the long run, than if I just keep, you know, trying to make
Yeah.
this work here that I really hate. And that, I think part of that is scaling too, right? it's something that Adam and I talked about, because he's, probably like you over the years has considered expanding, right? And
Yeah,
he said that the challenge there for me is, even though I could definitely get, but he says my job will change if I have multiple locations.
yeah,
It becomes a different business, and
I agree.
that's, he said, is that a job and a role that I want to do now?
Yeah,
Because my job, everything, like I will, if you still love, like for you, if you still love doing a few massages here and there, you have, some clients, he still likes
it's
cutting hair
exactly
and
how I do it. Yeah,
doesn't kind of want to. So, I think if you expand, less likely that you'll have time to do that. You're
correct.
now just running numbers
Yeah.
and meetings and all, right? And
Mike, I
yeah,
always looked at it
maybe
because
maybe
I
it's more
came,
money, but how much more money do
but
you need?
yeah, I came close.
You
Like I
know?
explored that decision. We got to the point where we had 5 rooms, and here's what happened: we had 5 rooms. They were full every day, I think we were booking out 30 days in advance. So if an appointment got canceled, you weren't getting in until another month or two until we found you the proper time. And what ended up happening is work got boring for me. I knew
Mm,
exactly what was going to happen
yeah,
every day without fail. And I didn't care anymore. There was no challenge. So I did
right.
explore that. Okay. And then what ended up
As a
happening
way to
was,
cure your boredom.
yeah. What
Got
ended
to
up
blow
happening
shit
was
up once in a while.
I heard that our neighbors next to us in our building were going to be leaving. They were now month to month, and now I have this opportunity to do it here and do an expansion, more rooms because we need it, more people to work, and that's when we turned it into a spa because we had the room now because we
Yeah.
added 2,600 square feet. It wasn't a small project; it was a big project. We do that whole renovation, and it was just a different business after that.
I remember hearing that from older guys who had run businesses for a while. I remember I was at Albert Street, had an office there for quite a while, and there was a guy across the hall who ran some kind of a locksmith business or something like that, but had been doing it forever. Like, he was an older guy, and I remember running into him in the hallway one time where he started talking about business, and he kind of got in, super nice guy. He got into this kind of mode, but I was telling him, oh yeah, I just started a business, got a few people, blah, blah, blah. And I remember he launched into this very quick kind of advice. And I'm not even sure I asked, maybe I asked him, I don't know. Anyway, but I super
Oh,
appreciative because he was a nice guy, and I knew, like, how sometimes when people that are older have seen a lot, it's I like to hear, and have walked a path that I respect. I
yeah.
like to hear, like, what is their perspective after doing it for so many years. And he said to me, he's like, be careful of growing too fast. And I was like, oh, thanks. He
Yeah.
goes, I've seen in my business many guys that I knew, and they expanded. They had 4 locations, 5 locations. 2, 3 years later, they were bankrupt. And so
Cash flow becomes
yeah,
the biggest issue
yeah,
first and foremost. And
yeah.
the one thing I had wanted to say, the reason why that when I was doing the expansion, and sorry, I went off track there, was I had to make a decision. I do the expansion and I am here watching everything, or I have another location, and is it going to hold my standards that I want running?
Mm,
Is someone picking the lint off the floor? You understand? Like if I'm into it for that much, how's
yeah,
that place going to be when I'm not there? Now I have to be here for 3 days and there for three
yeah,
days. So what's suffering? Both? Of
yeah,
course. So that was how I said no,
yeah,
because I said, I'm going to do this expansion. It's, I'm adding the equivalent rent of having to rent something else. I'm adding X amount of rooms that I don't have that I would have maybe started with in a 1,200, 1,400 square foot local. So I was doing the same thing now, but it's under one roof. I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, no, I'm staying here. That was how I had to decide that
yeah,
expansion was quality control. Just for me is important, and I can't see how it was going to be accomplished that way. I just couldn't.
yeah. Do you have routines that you sort of adhere to every day or kind of help make your business run better? Although that could be part of it, but more from the aspect of keeping your energy right. Just kind of like,
I'm glad you said that because I think that's one of the biggest things that right now it's again, and mental health, no one likes to talk about it, but you have to, or it becomes worse. And yeah, that is actually my focus is for this year is on me. We got through COVID, we survived, and we're doing great. And I am very happy of that. And I put everything into accomplishing that. I really did. I did my best. And
mhm,
we're kind of back there. And now I want to, you have this when you're busy like that, you put those processes in place. We've been around for 22 years. The staff knows what they have to do when they come in. There's no, there's no micromanaging. So everything is at a bigger level. So yeah, it's time to be focused on me. I gained too much weight over COVID. I'm out of shape, and I'm in the healthcare industry, and I don't look like I should be. So, yeah, I'm being a little hard on myself, but
yeah,
I have to be. Um, I it's this focus is on me, my mental health too, making sure that that's being taken care of because there was a lot going on in the last
yeah.
year, last
Well,
year, two
and that's
years.
the thing, right? Like we often for long stretches we have to put ourselves on the back burner, right?
We're
Because you
last.
have to put
Yes.
your employees, your business, your
Yeah.
employees are the heart of your business. So you
Yeah.
have to like give, and sometimes it just isn't time for yourself. Although we always want to try to scratch that out. But yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. So, any specific like routines that you've developed or that you're doing that you find are really
Yeah.
kind of getting you
I'm
back on track or
the one thing that I've actually okay, if you've talked to me enough, you'll figure it out. I wanted a plan, right? Because that's how I did the business. I planned it.
Mhm.
I told you I planned it before I went into school what I was going to do. Then I planned it by working at different places. So to me, it's important to have those steps of how you did it. And same thing for my health is I've realized that like I used to be a gym rat. I was the guy that would go into the gym and work out every day for 2.5 hours. And just blow every weight. Like, I loved it. I loved
Yeah,
bodybuilding. It was something I
yeah.
loved. I loved.
I remember
Um,
you were like a heavy lifter,
yeah,
right? Or
yes,
whatever.
yes.
Like the
And I
clean and
loved
jerk
it.
stuff?
Yes, I loved it. So, but I turned 50 this year and I'm not going to go back to that, but I want that to be a part of it. So
Right.
I thought the best way for me to plan this out is I'm going to do it, again, I'm taking my age into consideration where I want to do something different every day for myself or every second day. Like Monday's yoga, Tuesday is going to be like just stretching. I just want to stretch. Wednesday is going to be weight work. Thursday will be cardio. Friday is going to be yoga again. And Saturday, I will keep open and I'll pick what I want to do. And Sunday, I take off. So now I have a plan and I'm not going to be bored because, when you first think you're going to get back into the gym, you start going and okay, you go one day and you're like, yeah, that felt good. And then the second day, it's like, yeah, that was good. And, by the second week, you're like, I don't want to do weights every day.
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
want to. Where before it was like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I want to pump weight. Like that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you get discouraged, she's like, I don't want to do that. I don't
Yeah.
want to do it. So instead, I'm going to give it a day. And if I like it at the end of the week, I'm going to make it the option to do that workout again. So have a
Yeah.
plan. And then part two is the thing that you read this more than anything that is preached about healthcare and the whole industry is it doesn't work if you don't eat right. Let's be real now.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't work if you don't eat right. You want to be healthy, you can skip everything else and eat right, and you will do good for your body. And don't do the workouts. That should be step one.
Mhm.
That should be step one, but they work hand in hand.
Yeah.
So, I have more time, a little bit more time now this year from circumstance to, decide what my meals are going to be for the week and meal prep, which is important because you come home and you don't want to
Mhm.
spend that time. So, Saturday, Sunday, you go do the groceries And then Sunday you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to make this chicken, I'm going to make this dish, I'm going to make this dish, and there's my meals for the week. So that stuff is the stuff that I'm working on now.
Do you find making the meals is kind of therapeutic in and of itself?
Mike, there's
Or
nothing more I like to do than to be in the kitchen, and I
yeah.
come home, I put some jazz music on. I love having jazz in the
Mm-hmm.
background.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in the kitchen and I grab the apron and I start cooking. And it's fantastic. It's just this feeling of uh, home.
Yeah.
That's how we grew up. Is
Yeah.
home cooked meal every single time made by
Yeah.
mom. We never went out for meals, just didn't exist in our family. Uh, and you miss that after a while because of course your life, oh, let's go out, restaurants, fun, friends, and that's a
Yep.
great time in your life. But what do you always come back to in the end? Family. And you remember those meals and you want to do that with your kids and you want to share that with your
Yeah.
friends because I enjoy nothing more than my friends coming over and me making stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a new
Yeah.
recipe or I've done this. Come and eat. you know, that whole Italian thing. I love it. So
Yeah.
doing the meals, and the one thing that I like is I know my palate, I know my flavors. Like I'm good with spices, so I like to do different dishes. Like it's not just okay, boneless, skinless chicken breasts in the oven with salt and pepper. Like no, I'll make
Hey,
like
that's what I ate for 10 years.
that's great,
Sometimes I put
Mike.
Cajun on it.
Mike, let me tell you what I did. I just made it last week, and oh my God, did it come out good. I was just had some chicken thighs, and I'm like, okay, I put some olive oil on it, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic, and onion powder, and and then I'm like, I'm gonna put some thyme on it. Wow, thyme. It was such a fantastic flavor, such a fantastic flavor. So the chicken cooked, it smelled delicious, it tasted delicious.
Yeah.
But what I did was I made a roux. I took some butter and some flour, and then I took some of the drippings from the chicken and mixed it in and chicken stock, and I made a gravy with it.
Whoa.
And it was that thyme flavor. Like I thickened it up.
Yeah.
I put some baking powder in it. The one that not baking powder. No, cornstarch. Cornstarch. I put some cornstarch in it and I thickened it up, and it was fantastic. The flavors were just bang on, and I'm like, this could be a delicious soup for crying out loud. But I made a gravy, and it was one of the best chicken dishes I made. I love cooking. I love it. I love changing
Yeah.
recipes. I love like Middle Eastern food. I like making
Yeah.
spicy chicken with curries. So
Yeah.
I can keep it interesting with my meals. I have a lot of things that I know how to do well, and as long as I make them and have them prepped and ready, your week is set and now you're not scrambling because it's when you scramble you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
You make bad decisions, you know you're
Yeah.
scrambling for food and it's like, oh, okay, quick drive through
Mm,
fixes everything,
mhm.
right? Convenience, right? Take that away by going, no, the moment I come step into home, I have food waiting for me in the fridge and all I got to do is warm it up, right?
And
It's no
there's
brainer.
something about, and there's very few restaurants where you can get this consistently, but few.
Yeah,
But there's something about making a meal with fresh ingredients, and it sometimes I just am blown. I think food we're lucky in Winnipeg because there's a lot of ethnic mom and pop type restaurants. There's chain restaurants here, but they're not really the predominant restaurant experience here is the ethnic mom and pop.
yeah,
Whereas I think that's uh not like that in many other big cities. So I think we're quite
you're
fortunate
right.
in that
it's
respect.
it's shocking when you go like big American cities. And I've been lucky enough to go watch a few NFL football games and we've driven there. And
Right.
you're driving through these cities, and it is drive through after drive through after drive through of fast food, greasy food, non-ending of restaurants we have no concept of
Yeah.
here in Winnipeg, never mind
Yeah,
Canada, where
exactly.
you're right. Here you can go order from mom and pop. Like Winnipeg is great for that.
Yeah.
Fantastic for it.
Yeah. I think that's just a fallout of being a small market. I think a lot of large changes come here and say,
Yeah.
it's too small of a market.
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny because you even something as simple as a burger, you make a burger at home out of just buy the ground beef, make
Yeah.
and that burger will taste like uh, 10 times, 100 times more tasty than the same burger made presumably
Yeah.
of the same ingredients at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Right? So cooking with like fresh ingredients. I mean, you watch any of the cooking shows, that's the first thing they say, like Gordon
Yeah.
Ramsay and all that. It's the ingredients. It's the fresh ingredients, right? They spend more time picking out the ingredients than anything else.
Yes, Mike, if I could change my life in one way, and I hope to do this in my lifetime when I have a young kid, 8 years old, so it's not possible. But when he's of age and I'm able to do it, I would love to live in a place, not Winnipeg, where I get to walk to buy my food every day.
Yeah.
I That is my goal. That is my
Hmm.
end goal game.
Hmm.
Like I want to be able to do that. I love going to the market and getting your food for that day. I love that. I love going shopping
Yeah.
and knowing this is what I'm going to cook for myself tonight without,
Yeah.
sometimes it's great to have leftovers, but when I can do it fresh every day, that simple life of how Europeans used to live, where the butcher was the butcher, the baker was the
Yeah.
baker, the bread came
You
from
literally
here,
are walking,
right?
you take a bus because like public transit is huge in Europe. You get off the bus and on your way back to your house or apartment, you stop at the grocery store and pick up the dinner for
Yes,
that night, right? Like
yes.
a
And you
couple of
buy
cuts
it
of
at each
meat and
individual
yeah,
perfect
yeah,
place. The bread
yeah,
that's just made,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
The butcher who'll cut it as you say.
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
lifestyle is, that's
That's
what my
living.
parents did.
That's
That's
living.
living. And
Yeah.
you're walking the whole time. It's healthy.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
different life. It's a
And you're
different life.
talking to the shop owner. You're getting, hey,
Yes.
Joe, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like yeah,
There's
we
something to
have
be said, man.
we have such a I think our connection to food is it's so primal. Like just there's actually I remember watching because I was really heavy into nutrition and overhauled how I eat a few years ago, which has made an enormous change in my life in terms of moods and helping me regulate my bipolar. And
Yeah.
it's not perfect, but it is like I went from like here to here type of thing, like just eating consistently. And now I know if I indulge in a particular food at a particular time of day, I know what I'm gonna get. And once in a blue moon, I do it anyway because like
Yeah.
having a line of cocaine once in a blue moon isn't gonna kill you. That sort of mentality. I
Nothing
don't do
wrong with that.
cocaine,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I tell my kids, don't do drugs,
Uh,
but a line of coke once in a while isn't gonna kill you. Uh,
Great parenting
and
advice.
yeah, yeah. In the middle of me being, what is the most important thing about eating, about food? Is it the type of food? Is it the way you eat? Is it the time you eat? Is it like what is the bang for the buck? I wanted to know. Like, and so I remember watching this one uh presentation this guy did who was kind of along that type. Like they did a study of essentially that. What is the most bang for the buck thing that makes a difference in terms of health when it comes to food? Is it eating specific types of foods? Is it focusing on that makes the biggest difference? The times of the day you eat? Is it quantity of food? Or is it the biggest correlation to health was cooking your own food? Period.
Yeah.
That's what they found was the
Yeah.
most impactful
I agree.
is just what you eat, when you eat, all of
Yeah.
those things, they have an impact, obviously, but none of them single handedly had an impact as much as just simply making sure the
Yeah.
people that made their own food, correlation wise, were by far the healthiest as compared to the impact of all those other things. And so that
If you look
really,
at what they
took,
did to
because
create that meal,
when you,
they you had to go out and buy it, right? You've
yeah.
invested your time into this meal. It means
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, there's so many benefits to cooking your own food. Like
I agree.
I think the
I
thing that
agree.
still, I mean, a lot of people know this, but I think even when you know it, you kind of dismiss it. Food that you buy that's pre-made, unless you go to very specific restaurants at some like if I eat out, one of my favorites, and my kids love it too, we go to Freshie. But it's one of the few places, like most, there's so much seasoning and everything. There's so
Yes.
much sauce, and everything's overly flavored.
Mike,
And
when
it's
someone,
because the food is really cocaine, because
yes,
they
absolutely it is.
it's
When
about getting the next hit. Like, oh, that
yes.
was I want the next hit again. You're eating literally for the feeling in your mouth.
Yes,
And then what you should be doing is spitting that
absolutely.
out, not
Yeah.
swallowing it, because
Jeez.
that's killing
Mike,
you.
there's clients that you talk, oh, I went to this restaurant, it was amazing, oh, the veg, like I could eat those vegetables all day, and I'm like, do you know why they taste that way? Because their job is to make them taste that way. They don't care how much fat and calories are in that meal. It doesn't matter to
Yeah.
them. What matters to them is that you remember exactly how good it was so that you can come back. I'll never forget the first time and last time I ever tried making hollandaise. You love it, right? Oh, eggs Benedict. I'm looking at the recipe, and the recipe was three-quarters of the brick of butter, and then the egg yolks. And I was just like, that can't be right. That can't be right. I can't use that much butter. There's no way. I can't be right. So I cut off some butter. Well, it tasted horrible. I had to put it back in. But
Yeah.
to make hollandaise, if you see what how much fat is in hollandaise, you'll never eat it again. But it's the most delicious sauce in the world,
Yeah.
right? Yum,
Well,
hollandaise, butter and egg yolk.
there's a term I once heard, and it was one of my favorite restaurants, Sukhothai, there on
Yeah,
Osborne. Uh, I remember talking to one of the owners, and it's like owned by siblings, basically, as far as I understand. At least it was. I think they're still all there. I remember talking to them about, yeah, I was curious, how did you guys start this? What was your inspiration for starting this restaurant? Blah, blah, blah. So in the middle of the conversation, they use this term called celebration foods and kind of regular life foods. And so the food they make there is celebration food. So she says, we wanted to make some of the celebration foods that we would eat. And I asked her, I said, "Cool. So why do you call it?" She said it's a term that they use regularly in their culture, I think. And I said, "Well, why do you call it celebration food?" She says, "Well, these are foods that you eat once in a while when you're celebrating something. You don't
yeah,
eat them every day, right? Every day you eat the bland stuff, right? That or what would be considered bland. I hate that word, really. But and I think that's the huge part. North American diet, and you watch all the cooking shows, and everybody gets who that don't really understand like they get into this, every food has to be a celebration food, otherwise it's bland, and who wants to eat bland food? and
yeah,
and that's where people really, I think, long term get in trouble. And there's there in terms of the bland thing, there's this analogy that I once heard, and it has to do with milk. This guy says one time, he says, look, everything is an acquired taste. Everything. So Chinese people think cheese is the most disgusting thing. How can North Americans eat cheese? It's mold. How can you
it
eat
is. Yes,
mold?
basically.
It's true when you think about it. It's gross. How can we eat it? But we think it's delicious. Yet you look at a Chinese duck egg that's fermented,
Yeah,
and you're
100
like,
years
"Oh my
old.
god, that's
Yeah,
gross. How can you eat that?" And they're like, "Well, it's pretty tasty to us, right?" So every all tastes are acquired. And there's probably some genetic aspects to it, like probably have a propensity to this or that, depending on your ethnic background. But to a large degree, they're acquired. So he gave the analogy of milk. He says, look, if all you've ever drank is homogenized milk, whole, whole fat milk, whatever,
yeah.
drink that every day, that's milk to you. And then one day you say, oh, I want to be healthier. Somebody tells you should drink skim milk. Okay. You try skim milk, one glass, and you're like, this is disgusting. This tastes like water, right? But you persevere, like, no, I want to be healthy. I'm just gonna drink this. And over time, over maybe days, weeks, whatever, you become used to skim milk, and that becomes how milk tastes to you now. And it's all good. I have skim milk. You don't think about it. It tastes fine. It's milk. And one day, you pour a glass of homogenized milk, the milk you used to drink. You drink it and you want to throw up. You're like, oh my God, this tastes like a glass of butter. Like, Jesus. so much. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was the analogy he gave. Look, people who want like are eating a way overly flavored rich diet, who are they used to the heavy sauces, the creams, the salt, and they say, oh, I just can't eat healthy food because it just tastes so bland, it's gross. Like, well, but that's you'll acquire a taste for that. You just have to you have to
Yeah.
realize that you could say the same thing about cocaine. I keep bringing up cocaine. I don't do cocaine, I swear to God. But you could say the same thing about cocaine. I don't know. Cocaine makes me feel good. It gets me through the day. Like, what's wrong with it, right? I'm just, like, well, yeah, there's kind of a problem with using cocaine all the time. And like, well, if I don't have my cocaine in the morning, I can't do my work. So like, you know, I
Is
or
that
I,
is
I
that
don't
isn't
feel
that
good. I don't
coffee?
have the energy. Or coffee. Yeah, same
Isn't
same
that
thing, right?
coffee? Like
So,
real,
and I'm not
you know?
gonna sit here and say, don't drink coffee or whatever, but like I have to teach their own. We all, whatever. Having, uh, but it's it's just being aware and responsible. Like, okay, if you if you have the knowledge, if somebody tells you, okay, the diet you're eating is killing you or is the source of some, like you said a long time ago or a while back, that if you're not eating right, then none of the other stuff, it's hard to make progress, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
could exercise like a fiend, but if you're going home and eating,
Yeah. Cheeseburgers,
cheeseburgers every night,
pizza. What's
pizza
the point?
and carbs, and yeah, you're kind of like one step
Yeah.
forward, two steps back, right? So, but that's, like, it's like, well, okay, like what do you want? Like, if you want to improve this, then but to realize that whole all tastes are uh, acquired, is to understand that if I mentally, okay, maybe I won't enjoy this food, but I'll figure out how to season it, maybe in healthy ways using spices like thyme
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
oregano or tarragon, or, and play with a little bit. You can, but over time, your palate will adjust and
Absolutely.
it will
Yeah.
start to appreciate and love because if you're eating really salted, spiced, creamed food, you're not actually tasting the food.
Yeah.
You're
You're
not
tasting
tasting
spice.
the
Yes.
ingredients. You're eating
Yeah.
this meal with chicken and maybe some vegetables and what, but you're not tasting any of that. All you're tasting is the salt and the fat.
Yeah.
So, and now and that's what your palate has become accustomed to, right? That's what I want to, and but then all of a sudden you switch to eating bland food, quote unquote, and now you're not tasting the salt and fat anymore. So you're like, I'm not getting what that, and it's addictive, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
reason why companies put their shit in food.
So you
To
need
Yeah,
another you that's why they're
to
saying one of the biggest
overeat. They
things that
want you to
you overeat
overeat.
because you eat, you're full. Okay, that's lasted 2 hours, but it wasn't enjoyable, and that's something that's in here. And now what you want to do after 2 hours, where your stomach kind of feels like you can go again, you want to get that next hit of food. Like food
Yeah,
is an addiction. I could totally say I have food addiction. I love eating food,
yeah,
like, and for me sometimes it's, I want, today I want to have the flavor of this and this, where it's like, why are you eating all that, but you crave, like, you get these days where it's like, I want to have all these flavors in my mouth today,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
and none of them are good for you.
yeah. I find it
None of
especially
them.
difficult when you're tired. When I'm tired
Yes.
is
Yeah.
when you want to binge on.
That's why meal prep is so key. Like, I've seen it, like,
Yeah,
I've always known it, but now I'm gonna follow it.
yeah,
I'm going to do it.
yeah,
And just the few days that you have it, because again, you're driving home from work, you're tired, you're hungry, and there's 3 drive-throughs you're going to pass before you get here. But
yeah.
knowing that I'm going to be eating in 3 minutes, by the time I get home, that's fine. I
I
can wait.
used I used to bring when I had an office, I used to bring a fruit and I would eat it just before I left the office to go home
Yeah.
because it's in that ride that you get really hungry. And I ride my bike now, whatever, but I don't have long commutes. But still, in that ride is when you get kind of thinking about how hungry you are, blah, and then you binge when you get home, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I would have like a piece of fruit or something put in my stomach where you just take it down a notch,
Yeah. That's a
so that
good
when you
idea.
get home, you're not like
Yeah.
reaching for the chip bag or whatever right
Yeah.
away. Okay, I got my fill of salt. Now I'll make some. Now maybe you'll make a dinner, but now it's like not as hungry. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Anyway, whatever. Okay. I want to end things off with some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. I like being self-employed because
I create my own world.
cool. That's awesome. Toughest part of being self-employed is
Family time, dedicating, not not making it second. It has to be on par
yeah,
at the very
balance,
least. At least
balancing.
you have to have balance of family and business, and that's probably the biggest, hardest challenge a business
Yeah.
owner faces.
What does work-life balance mean to you?
Having my time to do my thing on a, but I've now broken it down to, have I given myself time today, this week, and this month? So it's
Mm,
not just a bigger picture, it's balancing it smaller and smaller every day
mm-hmm.
is more important to me now.
Favorite mental health hack?
Yoga, 100% without
Oh,
fail.
cool.
I got my yoga membership back, and I crave going to yoga. I love ending the day going to a hot hatha class, which is restorative. They dim the lights, the nice music, and the whole thing is done on the mat or in, like, downward dog is the hardest position you're going to do. It's all restorative on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
stretching, and I love it. Love it. I just love ending it that way. It's low
Mm-hmm.
energy. You get out of the class, take a hot shower, and you can get straight into bed and you feel like $1 million. You sleep hard and you wake up good in the morning. And if I have time, I've been trying to go just to do a regular yoga class for a little more of the cardio of it. I like going at noon and doing one of those when I have a chance. But yoga mentally,
Yeah.
the one thing that I remember, this line that they told me in yoga, the biggest thing you'll hear in yoga is be in the moment. And they've broken it down. There was a yoga teacher that would break it down. Like, be in the moment means this second you're in the moment, and the next second you're in the moment, the next second you're in the moment.
Mm,
When you can break it down that small, you have achieved a clarity,
yeah.
because when I started going to yoga, the thing that I liked was I had my head was too busy, too many things were being said, and yoga was the first time I was able to completely shut it out. Much
Mm-hmm.
like the one thing I would like to get into my routine, actually, of my workouts. It's something I know that you do, that I'll probably be asking you about, but meditating, because that
Mm,
probably does the same thing, and I've read so much about it and the importance of it. But for me, it was yoga, just where I was able to empty my mind,
yeah.
and all of a sudden there was no talk, and I was just focusing on what I was doing, what stretch I was in that second, to the next breath, to the next breath, to the next breath. Yoga is an exercise in breathing. Another
Yes.
one person told me that, and I
Yes.
completely agree. Yoga is not about stretching, it's not about the
No.
exercise, it's not about sweating. Yoga is about breathing.
You're one of
That's
the
what yoga is.
probably one of the in the minority of understanding that. I think in North America, yoga has become a sport where it's stretching
Sure.
and whatever. There's nothing wrong with that
Yeah.
either. But I think few people understand what the original purpose of yoga was. And from what I've read and from what I've read and understand, is yoga was originally done by the yogis in India as a to prepare their body for meditation. So
Yeah.
they would
Wow.
prepare their body and then they would go into a meditation right after doing
Yeah.
yoga. So it is a meditative but yeah, but that's right. The movements were really about it's about the breathe. I think the word literally means yoga is breathe, something to do with breathe. I'm not
Yeah. The one thing I
it's
like,
about breathing.
again, a teacher explained to it, is yoga is matching your breath with movement,
with the movement. Yeah.
where again, when you think about be in the moment, it's literally like be in the moment of me extending my hand to shake someone's of hand, like be in every moment of what your body is doing.
Yeah.
And you can really feel where in your body you're not doing well, and your body has the ability to repair itself, but we
Oh,
don't give it a
100%.
chance.
Yeah.
We don't give it a
100%.
chance,
That's right.
and slowing down with
Well, that's
meditation and
partly what
yoga.
our medical community, unfortunately, has sort of done, is to convince us that our bodies are essentially flawed, and when something goes wrong, the only way to fix it is to go to a doctor and get a drug.
Correct.
And
Yes.
I think that's very subconscious to a lot of people, where they just have this sort of blind faith that, oh well, something's wrong with me. Don't, just go to the doctor. They'll uh and I think there's little faith in, because the reaction when something's not right in your body, and I mean there's acute and very, like, I mean, if you have advanced cancer and it's spread everywhere, I'm not sure that doing meditation and drinking tea is the right
Yeah.
approach. You probably need invasive Western medicine, and that's where Western medicine really shines, is
But Mike,
fixing. But
here's
where it falls
did they not
apart
work together?
is preventing, right,
Yes.
and bringing the body. So, but it's a business, right? I don't want to get into the whole
Yeah.
conspiracy theory,
I
whatever, but
hear
it's a
you.
business. Keeping people sick
Yeah.
to some industries is good business, right? So, whatever. But yeah, that when something's wrong or something's not right, I think the first reaction that you should have is to examine, okay, understand what's happening, and then take a look at your environment, the fundamentals of life, right?
Yeah.
Something my jiu-jitsu instructor taught me. He actually is super interesting. He said, a black belt really means that you've mastered the fundamentals. It's not
Yeah.
black belt isn't that all super fancy advanced moves. All a black belt means is you've mastered the fundamentals. And good martial arts instructor, even in sports, hockey, whatever, they always talk about when things aren't going right, you go back to the fundamentals. There's something about fundamentals that you're not
Yeah.
doing right. And that's a life analogy. If something's wrong, there's something in the fundamentals. Are you eating right? Are you getting enough movement? Are you getting sunlight?
Yeah. That's huge, man.
Sunlight is super important
Yeah.
to circadian rhythm. Like
Yeah.
those basic fundamentals. You have to go back to just being an animal. What
Yeah.
do I need as an animal? And which one of those is off, or am I not doing right? And because if 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 you avoid that, then you go to drugs, but drugs just numb the symptoms, right? They just deal with symptoms generally. Um, so yeah, like just looking at the fundamentals, and maybe it's your environment needs to change, but just understanding that if I there's something fundamentally that I'm not doing, and if I address that, then having a belief, a faith that my body will adjust, recover, and go back to being in a state of homeostasis. But I don't think people have that, or it's the convenience, right? It's inconvenient. They don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to stress out about figuring out how to eat right, or I don't like healthy food because it's bland, or I don't have time to exercise, whatever. It's way more convenient to take a pill and just numb the pain. So I think that's a huge part of it. I think we just live in a world where we just are addicted to convenience.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Sure.
so, and
Sure.
missing the fact that the enjoyment of life is, I mean, like, who has time to cook? But what you miss out on is the act of cooking is so enjoyable and rewarding.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not, I don't have
I,
time
I
for that. It's like,
I hate when people say, I don't know how to cook. You know what my response to that is, Mike? Do you know how to read? Then you know how to cook.
yeah,
They've literally, it's called a recipe. If you can read, you can cook.
you put
There
it
is
together.
no
Yeah. Yeah.
excuse. There's no
And
excuse.
it's like everything, right? When you first tried to ride a bike, you fell off a pile of
Of
times. Like
course.
first you try to cook, yeah, it's gonna be because you don't. Nothing's natural, right? Like things are
No,
gonna taste off, like or it's not like
it gets
it's you
easier. The
get
onion gets cut 10
and you
times
get
faster.
you get a few recipes under your belt that you don't have to
Yes.
think about anymore.
Yeah.
You get those go-to meals that you can make, and then
Yeah.
just it all gets easier, right? Like,
It does.
yeah, 100%. Okay, last one.
Yes.
What is your best scheduling tip?
My best scheduling tip. Okay, I'm horrible for scheduling. So this is what I have to do. The only thing that I look at on a consistent and very regular basis is my work schedule. So now I put everything into my work schedule because
Okay.
too many emails, too many messages, too many post-its, too many this. I have a column at work and I put everything in there because that's the thing I'm going to see every single day. So I have
Yeah.
to have it right in front of me. My my best advice would be put it somewhere where you see it. Or I'm not good enough. Not that I'm not good enough with the phone. It's not my first thing to do where it's like, okay, I'm going to schedule something and then I have to go put it in my phone. I won't do that, like doctor's appointments and things like that I do, but not daily small things. Those go into where my work schedule is because I see that screen every day. And that's the only way that I'll pay attention because
Yeah.
I'm not a good scheduler. That is a weakness for me that I need to improve on is,
Yeah. So
is how do I schedule and pay attention to my schedule.
putting it in a place that you know you're going to look at and that you're not going to miss.
And you're not going to
That's
miss.
yeah, right.
Yes, I
Okay.
that's what I have to do because
Yeah.
I am on the far end of being very poor at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I think everyone has different systems. It's whatever works for you,
Yeah.
right? Rosario, it's been a ton of fun. Thank you so much
Yes.
for taking the time to do this. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Have a great
Okay.
day.
And that's a wrap. I hope our discussions today have given you some insights, inspiration, or even just food for thought. Whether it's navigating the world of business, championing mental health, adapting to remote work, or keeping up with the latest tech trends, remember, every challenge is a gift, an opportunity to learn more about yourself, others, and the world around us. I want to extend a big thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. Your support truly means the world. If you found value in today's conversation, please consider sharing this podcast with a friend or leaving us a review. It helps more people discover these stories and insights. I'm Mike Ivashu, signing off for now. Stay curious, stay resilient, and I'll catch you in the next episode.